In the listening section for IELTS, both general training and academic, you need to take notes. When you take the listening section of IELTS, it's not as if you're just listening to your favourite Taylor Swift song. Experts talk about the concept of active listening. This is where the listener actively engages with the audio or what is being said. The problem is, active listening is quite difficult. In fact, if you're listening to audio of a different language, not your own, it's so easy just to daydream and think about other things. Of course, if you are daydreaming, then you're not listening. And that means you're going to miss some of the answers that you need to get right. The good news is that you can minimize daydreaming and increase your capacity for active listening with good note-taking strategies. And this is what this video is all about. Stay with this video and find out some useful strategies for note-taking during the listening section of IELTS. Thanks for clicking on this video. If you're new to IELTS Breakthrough, this is a channel where you can get tips and strategies for improving your IELTS score. My name is David Bourne. I'm the presenter at IELTS Breakthrough. Please make sure that you subscribe so that you don't miss any of these really content-packed, useful videos completely free for you on YouTube. If you've ever done an IELTS listening test and you've found that you cannot keep up, you've missed some details, then this video is for you. Let's start by looking at why note-taking really matters. When you're following an IELTS listening test, you're basically trying to do two things at the same time. You're trying to listen and process the information. There's also some reading and memory skills because you need to read the questions and remember what kind of information the questions are asking for. This is why note-taking is really important, because it will help you to make this cognitive stress a bit easier. Note-taking helps you to stay focused, catch key details. Details in the listening are things like names, numbers and places, and individual letters. And note-taking also helps you to avoid confusion during longer audio stretches. The next question is when to take notes. And, well, I don't know if this is good or bad news, but the answer as to when to take notes is all of the time. That is, before the audio plays, during the audio when it is playing, and also after the audio has finished. Let's start with before the audio. So before the audio starts, you do have some time to look at the questions. And if you read the questions, they will give you a clue about what kind of information you need to catch. So your note-taking will be notes on the key words of the information you need to get from the upcoming audio. So, for example, if you look at the question and the question requires the room number of a student, then you know that your note will be room number. Now, during the recording, there are several things that you need to note down. Make a note of names, and that is names of people and names of places. Make a note of dates and times. Note down numbers. Also, note down adjectives that you hear. Adjectives will help you answer questions related to how does the speaker feel. That is, the attitudes and opinions of the speakers in the audio. Also, pay attention to sequence words like first, next, and finally to help you kind of follow through in monologue talks in section 4 of the listening test. Now, if the audio stops and there are some empty answers, this is where you should take a quick guess. The notes that you take down after the audio has stopped is really related to guessing difficult questions. Remember that you don't want to leave a question empty, so just make a note of your best guess answer. And by the way, remember you have 10 minutes at the end where you can complete your answers. So you don't need to think too heavily at this point because there's other questions coming, but just make a note of the most likely answer when the audio stops. Now, let's look at a few note-taking techniques. The first thing you need to do is to abbreviate everything. You can't write as fast as someone speaks, so you need to use abbreviations, that is, shortened words. And there are some famous, well-known abbreviations: info, not information, approximately would be shortened to approx. Conversation can be written as conv in your notes. It's useful to just have your own system for shortening words. As a general tip, the easiest thing to do is to perhaps drop the A, E, I, O and U out of words. We can still recognise them without those vowels. So, for example, London as LNDN, or computer as CMPTR. This is something that is worth doing before you take the listening test, just thinking about what is your system for writing down words in their short form for quick note-taking purposes. Related to this, another thing you can do is to use symbols that represent words or ideas. Plus, of course, would be and. A slash would be or. A sideways arrow might mean leads to or because of. Tip number 3 is to keep it vertical. So vertical is where you have each note goes below, down, down, step, 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 down like that. Stack your notes down the page and then you're more likely to be able to match your note with the appropriate question. And it's also worth dividing each stack for the different sections. One other tip to pay attention to is that there are often distractions in IELTS. This is where the speakers change their information after a change of idea, they change their mind. So you get something like they agree to meet at 10 o'clock and then someone says, oh no, sorry, I can't, I'm meeting my brother then, can we make it an hour later? So the answer is actually 11 o'clock. The point here is that the obvious answer is not always the correct one. I'd also like to give you a few section-specific tips for note-taking. So here's the kind of thing that you need to take notes for in each section of the listening. Remember that the listening has 4 different sections. When you're listening to section 1, focus on these things: names, numbers and addresses and letters that go with these things. When you're listening to section 2, that is a monologue, focus on these things. Listen out for the structure and headings in the talk. When you get to section 3, take notes on these kind of things: who says what, and especially if they agree or disagree. So this is where listening out for adjectives can be useful. And then lastly, when you get to section 4, the last part of the listening test, which is a monologue, an excerpt from a lecture, take notes on these things. Make sure that you follow the flow and use mind maps or bullet points and key words to take notes of the key content words that the lecturer gives. And there we have it, ladies and gentlemen, some note-taking strategies that will help you perform better in the listening test and not feel that you got left behind. Remember, you are listening and you are writing down your notes using those strategies that I've mentioned. Make sure that you take notes before, during and after. Use abbreviations, use symbols, and identify the key things that you're going to take notes on for each section of the listening test. Now, let me know in the comments section, what kind of help do you need with the listening? Or do you have any other tips that will help us in the listening performance area? It would be great to hear from you. Put your comments down below. In the meantime, remember to check out all of the other videos I have on performing well in listening, especially knowing what you should do and what you should not do. So, thanks for watching this video. Have a great day, morning, afternoon or week. I will see you in the next one.